One thing people with aphasia tell me about the holidays is that it can mean a lot of small talk. When you're seeing family and friends, especially people you haven't seen in a while, that can be really overwhelming. My hope is that today's video will make that a little bit easier. I've also made a worksheet that can help you prepare. This is pay what you can. So you can put a 0 in that box and get it for free, or you can leave me a small tip to support my work and help me keep making free videos like this. All right, let's get into it. If you can, one thing I recommend is to make a photo album of the people you're going to see and their names. Make a small photo album of the people that you're going to see and their names. So it can be a physical one, and I can link to this one below if you're interested, or it can be digital if you'd rather do it on your phone. And you can use this in a couple of different ways. This can be good in the days and the weeks leading up to the holidays in order to refamiliarize yourself with the people you're going to see and their names. Because we all know that saying people's names when you have aphasia is super hard. And it can be really helpful if you add a label with their name or how they're related to you. Another option for this photo album is to physically bring it with you to dinner or parties or wherever you're going and use it to point to people and kind of move along the conversation in that way. For example, let's say that you're talking to your aunt and she has 3 kids and you're trying to ask a specific question about one of her kids. You can point to the picture and then say a phrase or a sentence like, college applications? That way, even if you have a lot of trouble getting your words out, you're kind of adding this context, you're pointing to who you're talking about, and then you won't have to get out quite as many words. And again, you can totally do this on your phone. Just make sure that you have pictures of the people that you're going to see, then put them together in albums that make it easy for you to find. I know that you're like, oh, I'll be able to find it, it's no problem, because I do that too. And then you end up scrolling and scrolling and scrolling because you have so many pictures and you're like, just a second, it's right here, right? And the other person is just sitting there waiting, and kind of like that pressure, that time pressure can be like, oh, just never mind. But if you plan in advance and make these albums, a little bit of prep in advance goes a long way. To make an album on your phone, you open up your Photos app, and then you'll click on the specific photo that you want, and then you want to push Add to Album. You'll create a new album, give it whatever name you want, maybe family or friends, or even like Christmas 2025, and then add the photos that you want to each specific album. Then you can find them so easily. They'll be in here with the album section, and you can just click and open and find those really easily. This is just a quick reminder that I have a free weekly newsletter. Every week, I send you the link to my latest YouTube video. I share one of my favorite aphasia resources with you. I give you an action item for the week so you can keep improving at home, and then we celebrate someone or something in the kudos section. This is completely free. If you want to sign up, you can subscribe at aphasiawithbree.com/subscribe. All right, now let's get back to it. Now let's practice some small talk phrases that you might say. You can read them off the screen, or you can repeat after me. All right, this first one is a standard opener. Read it off the screen or say it after me. How are you? Now it's your turn. Good. Here's the next one. How have you been? Your turn. And really quickly, those two questions are very similar, but they ask slightly different things. That first one, how are you, is asking how are you right now in this moment. You're asking that person how they feel today at the party, right now. That second one, how have you been, is a little bit more general and is asking them how they've been over the past few months or even years, depending on when you saw them last. And this can be a really good question for someone that you haven't seen in a long time, because they can kind of catch you up on all the stuff that's happened since you saw them last. All right, let's do a few more. How is work? Your turn. Good. And some people really want to tell you about their job, and other people will just be like, it's fine, right? So this next one can be great if they have children. You can say, how are your kids? You practice that. Nice. Or maybe they have grandkids. So let's ask that next question. How are your grandkids? Ready? Your turn. Those two questions are gold, so practice them until they're easy. And then let's do a couple that are more like fill in the blank. If you want to ask about a certain person or a pet, you'll say, how is, and then you have to fill in that blank. So let's say, how is Janet? How is Spot, your dog? Right? So I'm going to leave this up here, and I want you to fill in the blank with someone you know, either a person or their pet that you might ask about. Ready? I'll start you off and then you fill in the blank. How is, try to say that whole sentence with me. How is, awesome. You can also ask people about something they've done recently. This is another fill in the blank because I don't know your people or what they've been up to, but you might say, let's say they went on a trip to Spain recently. You could say, how was your trip? Or you can fill this in with kind of any event. How was book club? How was the play? So I'm going to leave this up here. Again, fill in the blank. Come up with somebody that you know and something that they've done recently and try to ask about it. How was... That one's a little bit trickier. So if you need to kind of plan that out, maybe write it down and come back to this one later. That is totally fine. But this is just to prep you and kind of get you thinking about these questions so that when you do see people, you've got a list of things to go off of. A quick tip for you, because you'll notice that all of those questions that we just asked began with the same word, and this is a word that people have trouble getting out. So let's say you have this list of questions, great, you've done your prep, you're ready to go, and then you get there and you're like, dang it, I don't know how to say that word. So that word, how, it starts with just a deep breath, like, that's that first sound. And then the second sound, these two letters are going to go together to say, ow, like you've hurt yourself. Ow, right? And so we have, ow, ow, how. As a heads up, I'm also going to put these questions on the free download, and I'll put a little pronunciation guide for that word because I know it can be tricky. That way you can download this worksheet, practice ahead of time. You might also even take this with you. I just want to tell you that it is okay to read these questions off of a piece of paper. The point is that you care enough to ask these questions, not that you have them memorized. If this has been helpful, please like this video and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on the next video. All right, let's get back to it. Okay, keep in mind that people will also ask you some of these small talk questions. So it can help to brainstorm and be prepared and maybe even write down stuff you've been doing lately and practice a script. You can tell people about your job or volunteer work, a TV show that you've been watching, a hobby, maybe your own kids or pets. Maybe you've been going to a lot of doctor's appointments or therapy. You might practice saying things like physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and then a phrase like exhausting but good. Or maybe you want to tell them specific holiday things you've been doing. Did you go look at Christmas lights downtown? Did you go to a play or a show? Maybe you took a trip recently and you just got back and you want to tell them about it. Make a list of stuff you've done recently. Maybe pull it together with a photo if you can, and then write down a phrase or a sentence about each thing. And again, you can add this to that photo album that is either a physical photo album or one in your phone. If you have kids, I would also recommend doing this for each one of your children, because people will be like, hey, what has James been up to lately? Or how is Sarah doing in school? And you might have prepped for you and what you're doing, and then somebody asks you about your kids and you totally freeze up. So make sure that you kind of have an answer for people in your family as well that others might ask you about. Again, my tips for you are to practice ahead of time, write it down, put photos in a physical album or a digital album, and then you also have the option of bringing that stuff with you to use as a communication aid. If you get stuck, it can be nice to have something to just point to, or maybe read these questions off your list. Let's give it a try. I know you haven't done your practice yet, but I'm going to ask you a question and I want you to try to answer. Hey, how are you? What have you been up to lately? Wow, nice. Really good. And if that was tricky, that's okay. Now you know that you need a little bit of practice ahead of time. And in this week's download, I'll help you brainstorm and I'll give you space to write some of this down so that you can be prepared ahead of time. Sometimes the hardest part isn't starting the conversation. It's transitioning between subjects or maybe ending the conversation. So let's practice a few things you can say for those. So a few transitions or topic changes that you can start off with are, hey, speaking of whatever you've been talking about, oh, that reminds me of, can I ask you something? Another thing I like to do for these transitions is sometimes I'll just say hey, speaking of that, hey, that reminds me of something. Or, hey, can I ask you something? And that little hey kind of marks I am taking the conversation in a different direction, and it makes it really clear that you're changing the topic. Again, if these are tricky, pause. You can always rewatch that part and repeat it with me. And here are some ways to end a conversation. It was nice to see you. I'm going to get some food. I need a break. I'll talk to you later. Good work. And if those were tricky, you can always pause, go back a little bit and listen again and practice with me. Now let's talk about boundaries and support. The holidays can be really overwhelming for a lot of people. There are tons of people there. There's background noise and conversation. Sometimes there's music. Oftentimes there's food and drinks. There is a lot going on. So if it's loud, you can move closer to who you're talking to. You can ask them to face you while they're talking so you can see their mouth and see their facial expressions. You can have people write things down. You could bring a little pad of paper, or you could have them do it on their phone. Or maybe you just need to find a quiet corner and take a break for a little bit. If you want to prep people in advance, like you're going to see some family members and maybe they don't know as much about aphasia, you could send them this video to help give them an idea of all that's going on for you and all that you've practiced, maybe the communication supports that you'll have, and how they could also help you. This is very exhausting when you have aphasia, and it's okay to take a break or to leave early. Your loved ones will understand. I love to hear from you guys. What did you think about this video? Was it helpful? Let me know in a comment below. I would also love to hear what you're doing for the holidays. If you can, write me a quick note and tell me what you're doing. As for me, I celebrate Christmas. I'm going to dinner with my family and my extended family. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, so the holidays will be really fun, but also probably chaotic. How about you? And if writing is hard, feel free to just leave me an emoji. I like to know that you're here and I'll say hi. All right, y'all, really nice practice today. I know that small talk can be exhausting and so hard when you have aphasia, but I know you guys can do this and I'll be rooting for you. A few quick reminders. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Sign up for my weekly newsletter. It's free. Download the worksheet that I made to help you practice these small talk questions, brainstorm responses, and set boundaries appropriately. All right, thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you again soon.